You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
The IT world used to be simpler. You only had to secure and manage environments that you controlled. Then came new technologies and new ways to work. Now, employees, apps, and networks are everywhere. This means poor visibility, security gaps, and added risk. That's why Cloudflare created the first-ever connectivity cloud. Visit cloudflare.com to protect your business everywhere you do business. Google and iVerify clash over the security implications of an Android app. CISA has issued a warning about a critical vulnerability in SolarWinds web help desk. Ransomware attacks targeting industrial sectors surge. Microsoft is rolling out mandatory MFA for Azure. Banshee Stealer is a new macOS targeted malware developed by Russian threat actors. A popular flight tracking website exposes users' personal and professional information. San Francisco goes after websites generating deepfake nudes. Daniel Blackford, Director of Threat Research at Proofpoint, joins us to discuss emerging tactics used by threat actors and trends in e-crime tied to nation-states. And scammers use Google to scam Google. It's Friday, August 16th, 2024. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Thanks for joining us here today. Happy Friday. It is always great to have you with us. Google and iVerify are clashing over the security implications of an Android app, Showcase.apk, found on Pixel devices. iVerify claims the app, used for in-store demos, exposes millions of devices to potential cyber attacks by allowing hackers to exploit the app to inject spyware and conduct man-in-the-middle attacks. The app runs at the system level, making it difficult for users to remove and potentially allowing the operating system to be compromised. Google, however, refutes the claims, arguing that the vulnerability requires physical access to exploit and isn't an Android platform issue. Google is taking precautionary steps by removing the app from all supported Pixel devices, although it asserts there's no evidence of active exploitation. iVerify criticizes Google for pushing the app without giving users the ability to remove it, warning that this creates an untrusted ecosystem that could have serious implications for corporate environments where millions of Android phones are in use. CISA has issued a warning about a critical vulnerability in SolarWinds web help desk, which is actively being exploited. This Java deserialization remote code execution flaw allows attackers to execute commands on affected systems. While SolarWinds has released a hotfix, the company noted that exploitation requires authentication, though CISA's quick response suggests it might have been used as a zero-day. Affected versions range from 12.4 to 12.8, and all users are urged to apply the patch, especially federal agencies, which must comply by September 5th. Yesterday, CISA issued 11 advisories addressing vulnerabilities in various industrial control systems. These advisories highlight security issues in Siemens, Aviva, and PTC Kepware products, among others. The advisories cover a range of products, including Siemens Scalance, Synec, and Teamcenter Visualization, as well as Aviva Historian Web Server and PTC Kepware ThingWorks. CISA urges users and administrators to review the advisories for technical details and recommended mitigations to protect against potential exploits. In the second quarter of 2024, ransomware attacks surged, nearly doubling compared to the first quarter as hacker groups adapted and rebranded. Dragos reported that these groups increasingly targeted industrial sectors using sophisticated tactics like zero-day vulnerabilities. Despite significant law enforcement efforts, ransomware groups such as BlackSuit and Ransom Hub remained resilient, exploiting the interconnected nature of IT and OT systems. The manufacturing sector was hit hardest, followed by transportation, government, and oil and gas. Dragos warns that ransomware threats will likely continue evolving, with industrial sectors remaining prime targets. Microsoft announced that multi-factor authentication will become mandatory for all Azure sign-ins starting in late 2024. Customers can choose from various MFA methods, including push notifications, biometrics, FIDO2 security keys, and certificate-based authentication. The rollout will begin in October for Azure Portal and Admin Centers, expanding into 2025 to other tools like Azure CLI and PowerShell. This requirement is part of Microsoft's broader Secure Future initiative, aiming to enhance security amid rising cyber threats. Exceptions apply to users accessing apps hosted on Azure, but not signing in to the Azure portal. Banshee Stealer is a new macOS-targeted malware developed by Russian threat actors, advertised on cybercrime forums for $3,000 per month. According to Elastic Security Labs, this malware can steal a wide range of data, including macOS passwords, hardware and software information, keychain passwords, and data from 9 different browsers, such as Chrome, Safari, and Firefox. It also targets cryptocurrency wallets like Exodus and Ledger. The malware checks for signs of being analyzed and avoids systems set to Russian. While Banshee Stealer lacks advanced obfuscation, making it easier for analysts to detect, its broad data collection capabilities pose a significant threat to macOS users. The malware is typically deployed through social engineering techniques, malvertising, or Trojanized applications. Despite its basic design, its focus on macOS and the extensive data it can steal make it a serious concern for cybersecurity professionals. FlightAware, a popular flight tracking website, experienced a data breach exposing users' personal and professional information, including physical addresses, aircraft ownership, pilot status, and flight activity. The breach, discovered on July 25th, resulted from a configuration error that potentially exposed user IDs, passwords, email addresses, and more. FlightAware has required users to reset their passwords and has since fixed the issue. The exposed data also included billing and shipping addresses, IP addresses, phone numbers, and partial credit card information. The San Francisco City Attorney's Office has filed a lawsuit against 16 websites that use AI to create non-consensual nude deepfakes targeting women and girls. These sites, collectively visited over 200 million times in the first half of 2024, allow users to upload images of fully clothed individuals, which are then digitally undressed using AI tools. The lawsuit, announced by City Attorney David Chu, accuses the sites of violating state and federal laws, including those against revenge porn and child exploitation. The complaint seeks to shut down these websites, impose civil penalties, and prevent the creation of future deepfake pornography. Chu emphasized the serious harm these sites cause, especially as advancements in generative AI have led to a rise in sextortion cases. The legal action reflects growing concerns over the exploitation of women and girls through AI-generated non-consensual images, highlighting the urgent need for societal and legal solutions to combat this issue. Coming up after the break, Daniel Blackford, Director of Threat Research at Proofpoint, joins us to discuss emerging tactics used by threat actors and trends in e-crime tied to nation-states. Stay with us. Defense contractors face immense pressure to comply with CMMC 2.0 security standards, needing a secure, user-friendly file-sharing solution. Kiteworks, a FedRAMP moderate authorized solution, supports nearly 90% of CMMC 2.0 Level 3 requirements, reducing compliance effort and cost. Kiteworks leverages a zero-trust framework for swift compliance and offers a secure platform for defense data protection needs, with advanced security features and ease of use. Its intuitive UI, mobile apps, and centralized policy management simplify administration. Accelerate your CMMC 2.0 compliance and address federal zero-trust requirements with Kiteworks' universal secure file-sharing platform made for defense contractors. Visit kiteworks.com to get started. Most of our listeners who deal with legacy privileged access management products know they tend to be expensive, difficult to deploy, and hard to use. Keeper Security is the answer. Keeper's Zero Trust solution delivers password, secrets, and connection management in one easy-to-use platform. It's fast to deploy, agentless, clientless, and has no implementation fees. Plus, Keeper is FedRAMP authorized. That's why we trust Keeper to prevent breaches and gain full control over privileged users. Visit keeper.io/cyberwire to schedule a quick demo. That's keeper.io/cyberwire. And thanks to Keeper Security for supporting our podcast. Daniel Blackford is Director of Threat Research at Proofpoint, and I recently spoke with him about emerging tactics used by threat actors and trends in e-crime tied to nation-states.
Well, I think our goal is really to have as much coverage as is possible with a task that is largely manual, right? Kind of taking the telemetry that comes out of these products and then following up with manual investigation, tracking the activity persistently over time, so that we ensure, as changes are made by adversaries, that we're able to continue to detect and block them. And by going through this process, day after day after day, over time, trends emerge, right? Like you can't not notice them in some cases. And so I think, they are emergent more so than we went looking for them specifically.
Well, let's dig into some of the specifics here. I mean, what are some of the things that stood out to you?
Well, I think if we're looking at nation states specifically, you, of course, have the kind of go-to North Korean actors kind of moonlighting with cryptocurrency. I think at first it was suspected that maybe they didn't have years ago, they didn't have all the funding that they needed. And so they were trying to, have like a second job where they were mining for themselves. But I think the hypothesis now is that they're actually mining, on behalf of the regime so that they can, fund their nuclear research program. So that's always a fun one.
Yeah. And how about the other usual suspects here? We talk about Russia, we talk about Iran.
Sure. So I think with Russia, the kind of trends are not quite as clear, but there's a very obvious relationship between the Russian intelligence apparatus and some of the groups that I would say, are predominantly financially motivated, right? So I think there are times where, based on some access that a e-crime group might have to a particular customer that's of interest, or a particular victim that's of interest to the Russian state, they might come down heavy and say, hey, if you don't want to be prosecuted, if you don't want to be shut down, if you want to continue to have us turn a blind eye to your illicit activity, then we're going to need you to provide us some access. I think there's certainly been some relationships like that leveraged over time. In fact, I'm pretty sure a very high-ranking Russian intelligence officer, attended the wedding of Maxim Yakovets, who was associated with Evil Corp back in the day. So you have this kind of tacit relationship where, for the most part, the Russian government says, hey, as long as you're not targeting Russian citizens, we kind of don't care what you do. But you never know when the long arm of the government is going to lean heavy on you and kind of leverage your own activity for their benefit.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I suppose there are occasions when it could help provide cover for nation-state activity as well. That there's perhaps some misdirection. Something looks like it's financially motivated, but as you say, there are ties to nation-state priorities.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think attribution is already a difficult half art, half science, and it's only gotten more difficult kind of over the years as whois data goes away, and we see threat actors leveraging a variety of commodity malware, even actors maybe who were previously maybe devoted to one of the larger banking Trojans, for example, ICE-ID, TrickBot, these types of things, now using net support RAD and Agent Tesla, and kind of the mass of commodity activity out there definitely makes attribution harder. And there's no reason to believe that a nation state wouldn't kind of leverage some of that same activity to try to blend in, or just use hosting infrastructure that financially motivated actors use, again, to kind of blend in with that traffic.
Is there anything specific and noteworthy coming out of Iran?
So with Iran, I can't speak to cybercrime specifically. We certainly have seen activity out of them in the past that maybe looks a little more like a cybercrime attack would. So, for example, Silent Librarian or Mabnet Institute was a group that would spoof library portals at higher education institutions, and mass farm credentials from students and faculties alike. So it wasn't necessarily what you would expect from an espionage-based group, where it was highly targeted at people who might be doing a specific type of research that they had interested in, or were policy influencers. It was kind of at large, which this kind of spray and pray phishing style you more often see out of the financially motivated side. We have recently seen, though, some activity that we attribute to an unknown group that is likely based out of China. So we saw a variant of Ghost Rat, and I think the financially motivated or e-crime landscape within China is an area that hasn't necessarily been very well reported on or understood by the industry as a whole. There's a lot going on there, and I think it's kind of burgeoning in a way. But there is, one particular remote access Trojan, Ghost Rat, and we recently saw a variant of it that was being leveraged against kind of people who were doing AI research, right? So, like several US-based organizations, this was targeted to less than 10 individuals. And so it raises the question, here's kind of a commodity remote access Trojan. It's been slightly modified, and now it's being leveraged against targets who you would expect would maybe align to the targeting profile for a group attempting to perform espionage or desiring to perform espionage. And so you look maybe at the kind of, to your point, use of these generic tools to throw off the scent.
Yeah. For folks who are tasked with defending their organizations, I mean, how should they take this information, the things that you and your colleagues at Proofpoint are sharing about some of these trends when it comes to e-crime in nation states? How do they dial that into their own risk profile?
Well, I think to cover these threats, regardless of risk profile, you're going to have a layered defense. But I think for others in the industry who are trying to defend against these things, I think you should absolutely not rush to make an attribution. You should not take every report that comes out of every vendor at face value. You kind of have to check, trust, but verify, and always have the mindset that regardless of where the information comes from, you're going to do your your absolute best to corroborate that within your own telemetry and visibility, because I think it's not always necessarily clear in these muddy waters, what is financially motivated and what ultimately is going to lead to a longer persistent espionage by advanced actors.
What about looking at some of the global events? I'm thinking of the Olympics, things like the upcoming elections here in the United States and indeed around the world. What is your view into those?
Sure. So I actually led our U.S.-based elections research team in 2020, and I think you're familiar with Selena Larson. She's actually leading our effort this year. And, the idea was that we would kind of pull together a team who have various kind of subject matter expertise, people who are tracking different activity, some on the nation state side, some on the financially motivated side, but, make sure that all the bases are covered, BEC, those looking at malware, those looking at SMS messages and other forms of communication, kind of get them all in a room and brainstorm how we can, add alerts in as many places as possible and highlight as many kind of trails to track down as it pertains to these larger events. Certainly, we've seen at past Olympic events some nation-state activity. I think specifically referring to Olympic destroyer there, and we know that the Russian state does not have a favorable relationship with the World Anti-Doping Agency, for example, and have definitely been sanctioned by Olympics in the past. So I think there's some motive there, but to your point, we've passed some of the major elections already, and there haven't been reports of outright meddling. I think kind of influence operations are always something to consider, but we're reaching the kind of critical point for the US-based elections. Certainly in 2020, we saw activity kind of start to ramp up toward the end of August and certainly lead into November. So it's something that we're monitoring very closely, and we'll continue to do so for the rest of the year.
That's Daniel Blackford, Director of Threat Research at Proofpoint. Elevate your enterprise identity solutions with Strata. Seamlessly connect legacy apps to any identity provider, apply MFA effortlessly, and maintain identity continuity without disruptions. Strata reduces tech debt, enhances security, and provides a robust, efficient identity management system. Feel secure and efficient managing your identity infrastructure. Strata helps you streamline operations and ensure continuous identity availability. Visit strata.io/cyberwire, share your identity challenge, and receive a free set of AirPods Pro. Take control of your identity management today. Visit strata.io/cyberwire. And our thanks to Strata for being a longtime friend and supporter of this podcast.
How do custom orders work on Kraken? Imagine I'm a music producer, dialing in my newest track. Need more bass? Crank it. Vocals not popping? Double it up. Want a bigger sound? Hit that reverb. Hard. That's custom orders on Kraken. Complete control over your crypto trades. Go to Kraken.com and see what crypto can be. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payword Interactive Inc. View PWI's disclosures on Kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
And finally, scammers are pulling off the ultimate irony by targeting Google's own products through malicious ads on Google's search platform. According to research from Malwarebytes, these ads trick users into downloading fake versions of popular Google services like Chrome, Gmail, and more. It's maddening. Google, the tech giant with some of the world's most sophisticated algorithms, is struggling to keep those scams off of its own search results. Despite all its resources, Google seems to be fighting a never-ending battle against scammers who use its very own tools to deceive users. It's a frustrating reminder of how pervasive and clever online scams have become, even managing to outmaneuver the systems designed by one of the most powerful tech companies in the world. As these scams grow more sophisticated, it's clear that even Google needs to step up its game to protect its users and itself from this ironic twist of fate. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. Be sure to check out Research Saturday and my conversation with Snir Ben Shemal from Zest Security. We're discussing their research, how we hacked a cloud production environment by exploiting Terraform providers. That's Research Saturday. Check it out. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K CyberWire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode is produced by Liz Stokes. Our mixer is Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Eiben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karpf. Simone Petrella is our president. Peter Kilpie is our publisher. And I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next week. This September 18th and 19th in Denver, a tight community of leading experts is gathering to tackle the toughest cybersecurity challenges we face. It's happening at MWise, the unique conference built by practitioners for practitioners. Brought to you by Mandiant, now part of Google Cloud, MWise features one-to-one access with industry experts and fresh insights into the topics that matter most, right now, to frontline practitioners. Register early and save at mwise.io/cyberwire. That's mwise.io/cyberwire.